All right, well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today on another webinar with the Farmer's Truck and some awesome guests that we've invited to share about their story on their mobile market program and see the differences in between the different types of approach. So we're creating a roundtable and we'll go through a bunch of different questions. But first, let me introduce you to myself. So, hi, my name is Fred. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the Farmer's Truck. Farmer's Truck has a bold vision. Fresh, accessible food in every community. We're a social enterprise, and this is really what keeps us going. So let me tell you a bit about our story. So Farmer's Truck started out of a little farm in Capelé, New Brunswick in Canada, with the means to bring Mathieu's product to market. It was a challenge getting into the farmer's market itself or getting into a retail store. So we decided, hey, listen, let's do our own mobile farmer's market. We got an old truck that we bought. It was an old FedEx truck that we started modifying ourselves. We didn't have a whole lot of money. We were trying to do something pretty lean. We put a big door on the side, trying to create a big display so there would be an abundance of food and repurpose some of the shelving inside. And this is what it looked like when we were first out for that day. Obviously, it had to be red, farmer's truck red, or tractor red, barn red. Had to match the branding. And this is what it looked like when we were all set up. So we put a lot of emphasis on creating a display that looked abundant, would, get you excited to shop at the truck. And we eat with our eyes. So that's something we put a lot of emphasis on. So in 2015, we launched our own mobile farmers market. We've learned a lot through the years, and now we empower others to do the same. Farmers Truck is now the most popular mobile market truck in North America, collectively serving roughly about 25,000 families a week. All right, so let's get started with our roundtable and we'll do some introductions. So, everyone, please meet Amber Thiel. Amber is the retail program manager at FeedMore Western New York. Welcome, Amber.
Thank you.
And please meet Carla Rankin. So, Carla Rankin is the executive director for the Arlington Community Food Bank based in Washington State. Hi, Carla.
Hi.
All right. So, Amber, let's dive into your program and tell me a bit about what got Feed More interested in the mobile market. How did that work out? And you've been running this for a couple of years now. So, any overview you can tell us?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. So, like Frederick said, I'm Amber Thiel. I'm the retail programs manager for FeedMore Western New York, and I am responsible for managing the farm market. Back in 2020, we received, right before COVID started, we received a grant that was pushing us to get more produce out into the community in different ways. And we already had a bunch of different programs developed. We had our mobile pantry, which was it's very similar to like going to a established brick and mortar pantry, but anybody and everybody is welcome and had a lot more perishable items on it. Um, we also had like we are a food bank, so we service 4 counties. We had our pantries and soup kitchens and all that kind of stuff, but we weren't really getting a ton of produce out. And that's just because of space limitations. So with this grant we received, they were like, how do you get produce out and how do you do it effectively without impacting your other programs that you're running? And the team, I was not a part of it originally. I came on to the project in 2021. But the team pretty much was like, we're going to do a mobile market. We're going to areas where access to food and fresh, affordable food is lower, or where transportation is a challenge, and going from there. So we had the idea. We were going out in a box truck every single week to a couple of sites. We were going at 5 a.m. in the morning. That didn't like trying to pick up people dropping off their kids for daycare. We were doing everything and everything under the sun to try and make this work. And then finally, we got our farmers trucks back in 2021, and from there, we've just grown and expanded. We have 3 of them, and just this past year, we were able to get our third one out on the road with a full route, and we now service 4 counties. Um, I will
That's
say
awesome.
there's been a lot of, yeah, it has been a challenge. One of our biggest challenges has been knowing our place and knowing our space because we are the food bank, we do service 4 counties across New York State. And we're in an area where there are a lot of mobile markets already, and there were people who are already doing this work, and we're coming in and we're saying that we're also going to be participating in it. So that was a huge challenge for us that we weren't going to be stepping on toes because we're based out of Buffalo, New York, but in Buffalo, New York alone, there are four other mobile markets operating. So we were coming in and saying, we're going to do it too. And people were like, well, why? And we really had to go in and be very genuine and say, we're not going to be in Buffalo. We're going to be up in Niagara County servicing that area. And we're going to go all the way down to the New York, Pennsylvania border and do that. So that has been one of our challenges is coming at it from a genuine place and saying that we're not trying to take over what you're already doing. We're coming and filling in the gaps where these other mobile markets aren't. Um, and that also has helped us in expanding and growing because a lot of people do want something like this in their community. And it's not always the most accessible because other mobile markets are just staying in their space. So we decided to take over all four counties. Some of the successes that we've had is that we have really reached areas that in the past, even us as a food bank, I mean, we have over 300 agencies across our network, and yes, we're in areas where our pantries and our agencies are, but mostly our trucks are going to places that our pantries aren't. So we're filling a need in that area without without our network partners. We're really just filling in gaps as needed, which has been a huge success over the past couple of years.
Uh,
So
a quick question. So just so we're clear on your model, so you do sell the food.
yes, we do sell. Sorry, I should have prefaced that. We are a paid model. Our product, nothing is over $5 on our truck, but we do accept cash, credit, debit, EBT, SNAP, as well as Fresh Connect coupons. The only thing that
Mhm.
we have not been able to break into, which again is another challenge we face, and I'm not sure it's probably across the country, not this challenge, but like this program is farmers market nutrition program coupons. We unfortunately cannot accept those just because we work with so many different farms that might not have their FMNP code or anything like that. So it has been a challenge applying for that in the past, but do accept Fresh Connect. And we also partner with our friends at Field and Fork Network to do double up food bucks. So if you come with your SNAP card or your EBT card, it's automatically a 50% discount shopping with us. None of our product is over $5, and most of our items are two for $1. So
Are you
we are charging for it, but it's as affordable as it can get.
are you aiming to like break even on what you sell? That's kind of
Yeah, so it's kind of a mix. We try our hardest to break even. We don't do any change. Everything is whole dollar. That just makes it easier for us when we're doing things because we are going to like 2 to 4 sites a day per truck. So change is a little bit of a challenge, especially going between counties too. Um, oh, I'm sorry, I just lost my whole train
that's
of
okay.
thought.
That's okay.
Uh, when we're going to break even. So we do an evaluation whenever we bring in a product. Some things will charge over break even just so because there's a lot of product on our truck. I'll use broccoli as an example. Broccoli, we sell 2 heads for $1, no matter the size. And we're definitely, I think we lose about $6, $7 per case because we do that. So we try to balance it out. We might charge a little bit more over the break even price for some things because we're charging so little on the other end of it. Um, so at the end of the day, we pretty much do net out at what we purchase versus what we sell. Very rarely do we ever make a profit, but that's not really our goal with the program.
Yeah, it's to make it accessible. And then
Mhm.
one last question, and then we'll go to Carla. So what's the reception has been with the community you're serving? What are they saying about the pricing and the, let's say, the schedule and all that stuff? Like,
Yeah, so that I overall we have really great host sites, which I think is a huge piece of having a successful program is getting host sites that are invested in you and invested in the program and invested in the community is the biggest piece. So overall, our response has been really positive. We've been doing this full on with at least 2 trucks going for the past 4 years, and some of our sites have been day ones with us, and our new ones that have been with us for like 2, 3 months, the response has been overwhelmingly positive. I think when you bring something to a community that is asking for it versus putting yourself in the community and saying you need this, the reception is way more positive and more welcoming than again if you're doing the
awesome.
opposite and saying, well, it looks like you need us here, looking at just data alone.
it's way better to be invited, right?
Mhm.
And we'll jump into the kind of community engagement at a later point. So thank you, Amber. Let's jump to Carla. Carla.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here to share our vision, passion, and journey of the mobile market. I'm the CEO for Arlington Community Food Bank and Vice President for Snohomish County Food Coalition. We're in the northwest part of Washington State. We launched the mobile market program, hearing directly from neighbors that they did not have access to food. We serve about an 800 square mile radius, and people couldn't come for a variety of reasons, transportation, not enough gas money, mobility issues, and whatnot. And as the first staff person ever at the food bank I'm at, the phone was just ringing, and that was the number one concern. And I had a light bulb moment instantly. This was the first 2 weeks I was at the food bank. When I was a kid, I visited a bookmobile. And because I lived in a really small rural community and we didn't have a library. And I have a love of reading because of it. And I would get so excited every month to visit that bookmobile. And I thought, we need a bookmobile, but for food. And so the crazy idea was started. Honestly, everybody thought I was crazy. They didn't really get the vision. They couldn't understand. Maybe people weren't familiar with a bookmobile. I had a newer board again, our organization had been like a food bank out of a church, really limited service. And so the board was new to being an official organization. I had retired from for profit, but they believed in me. And so that journey began. And I wanted people to be able to shop with dignity. The other thing I did at the food bank was create a grocery store shopping model, which was really, really new also in the industry.
Mm,
And so I wanted to keep that same model, bringing dignity to people to get their own groceries. And I did a lot of research. So it was about a year of research. This started in 2019, and then we landed in COVID, and I came across the farmer's truck, which really seemed perfect because we wanted refrigeration, we wanted non-perishable space, and we wanted a lot of fresh produce. Coming from a health and fitness industry, there was no nutrition choices at a lot of food banks, and especially ours. So that was really important to us. And this just seemed to check all those boxes. It had the refrigeration. It was ready to go when a volunteer got in it. You didn't need a CDL to drive it, which was really important. And we could take a grocery store on wheels. We are a completely free operation. Our food banks can't charge anything per our state regulations with our WSDA contracts, excuse me. So everything is free. People self-qualify that for services. There's an income guideline, but it's self qualifying. We don't ask for any documentation. So
mm.
we initially started with, it took, like I say, a year of research, and then I connected with you, and it took another year to fundraise. That's a whole other topic. And then we finally got the truck. That was a bit of a challenge also because we're in Washington State and we had to fly to, I think it was Hanford,
To pick
New
it up.
York, to drive up and get the truck. So it made a really big journey. We kind of tracked it like, where's Waldo coming back? Yeah. So it's been incredibly well received. Like I say, people had no idea. And then when it pulled in, of course, I had tears. I still get emotional
Mm.
sharing. And people saw it and they went, aha, I get it. You're not crazy. So we started with like 4 locations because we had to get the community, to see it too. And now we do 17 stops. We do a regular biweekly schedule with different places. And initially, our first few stops, when we started, we would get 8 to 10 people, and now we serve over 80 people at a stop.
Wow.
So it's made just a huge impact, helped us support our local farms by stocking it, and just, feeding those food deserts who otherwise would not get service. So I'm just grateful for it.
Thank you for sharing all this. One quick question for an operator looking to do something similar to you, which, the difference between you and Amber's program, Amber's like, okay, let's bring fresh food to people, which is still part of your values. But you were like, no, I want to bring dignity. That's really my first and foremost what I'm trying to do because you did the choice model at your. Amber, do you have a choice pantry at your location?
So we do have, because we are a whole network, we do have our own pantry. It is not at our warehouse, but it is in an area of high need.
And is it like a choice, kind of a grocery store type of
Yep.
experience? Okay, awesome.
Yep. It acts the same way as any one of our agencies would.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Let's dive into some granular details about the program and procurement and all that stuff. So I'll stop sharing my screen. Real talks on the road. Let's go right there. Stop sharing. All right. Okay. So let's talk about procurement strategy. So right now we're talking with operators. They're listening in. Oh, and by the way, anybody's listening right now, if you have any QA, use the Q&A section function at the bottom. Ask away, and we're leaving about 15 minutes at the end for all your questions. So maybe I'll start with you, Carla. Let's talk about procurement strategies. How do you get good deals? How do you make sure things are fresh on the truck and bring that to your community?
Big challenge, again, food banking, we don't have a lot of resources, it's just a grind to find those resources, find grants daily, monthly, initially to start the program, we had fundraising. We had our local high school put in a big pile of money. A commercial developer in our area matched their funds. And then we have a great partnership with our city. So the city of Arlington is a huge partner with us. And so they also provided a lot of, at the time, CARES Act fund, so we started this after or well into COVID. And so that allowed us to buy the truck and initially fund a lot of the food. The city of Arlington's grant specifically was to provide food to people in food deserts and struggling after the pandemic. So that was an initial really great boost. There was crazily really great things that came out of the pandemic, people supporting and rallying together. The thing was the challenge. So a lot of food we procure for donations, grocery rescue. Our motto is reduce waste and feed the hungry. And so a lot of it is that. And then our TFAP, our emergency food program from the federal government that trickles down to the state. We're in a coalition, and that's a big part of our food that's distributed. But getting the fresh food was expensive. And initially, we didn't have any grants for that the first year and a half or two. But we made a conscious decision to invest in our local community, small businesses and farms, because those same people were in our food lines. And if we could stimulate the local economy and feed people at the same time, we're really getting at the root cause of hunger. And so the small budget we had when I started was spent solely on buying fresh produce and
Uh,
going to farmers markets. We have a really great farmers market in Arlington, and walking around and saying, hey, what do you think of this? When you're at a farmer's market, can we get your leftovers for free? And then I'm also going to purchase from you. So it just started this beautiful partnership with farmers that, grow mushrooms and have maybe 10 pounds a week to a larger scale farm in our area where I can get, 3,000 pounds a week. So, and then we got a couple of really great grants from our Washington State Department of Agriculture, one called We Feed Washington and one, the Farm to Food Pantry, where those funds need to be spent in your state, preferably in your county. And at least 50% of the money has to be spent on fresh produce or dairy or meat. 100% of ours was all spent on produce.
uh,
And so that's just kind of how played out.
So what I'm hearing is like building a relationship with the local ag, the local farmers brought a lot of value. And, once they know what you're trying to accomplish and, you're buying from them, sounds like they want to play the game.
Yeah. And doing that also increased, individual and small business donors because they saw that solution to hunger and improving our economic climate. And so people are like, this is so cool. This is beautiful. Look at this produce they have. And donations started to come in for the program because they saw results.
So the visit, so your program all of a sudden got a lot more visibility, and that brought in some support.
Mhm.
Very
Definitely.
cool. Very cool. Thank you, Carl. Um, Amber, let me t
Yeah.
let's talk about well, unless you want to add something here. I was going to jump to
Oh,
food.
no,
Food is
I was just gonna
medicine.
say, like, yeah, Carla definitely has very good points about like just building those relationships with your farmers and your producers because they are, if you help them and you stimulate your local economy, they'll also help you, and it really becomes a great partnership. I was just gonna share a story about one of our growers. They grow our all of our stone fruits and our apples for the season, and we actually, they started out just doing wholesale with us. They're like, we'll practice with you guys. We're only buying a couple cases a week. And now they service all of Buffalo public schools throughout the entire year because we're filing letters of support for them. We're sharing that they can fulfill all the requirements. And Buffalo has a lot of public schools. I think there's over 100. So it really does, when you put those partnerships together, it really does help stimulate your local economy.
I agree. I grew up on a farm. I think farmers are part of the solution. They just often get forgotten. They're um okay. Amber, question for you. Food literacy and food as medicine. What does that mean to you? What does that mean to Feed More? And how do you implement that in your program?
Yeah, so food literacy to us, it means a bunch of different things. I think like the overall general term, we're talking about giving nutrition education and like how to live a healthier lifestyle. For us on the farm truck, it also goes on to include how to treat your food, how to treat the produce that you're purchasing and like what to do with it. So at Feedmore, we do have our Just Say Yes to Fruits and Vegetables, which is the short term JSY educators on staff. And they recently, actually, this is a project that they're going to be working on this year. So before in the past, it has just been the farm market team putting out recipes and doing the best that we can. We are not nutrition educators. We are lovers of produce and lovers of all things fresh fruits and vegetables, but we cannot tell you the health benefits of all these things. We can just say it's really good for you. But this year, we are going to have our JSY educators on the trucks with us who are coming to sites that we are at and doing on-site nutrition education classes. That is going to extend to everything from here's a full recipe, including a protein that you can buy on the truck today, or here's how to cut a pineapple because we get so many questions about how do I even tell that how do I tell that this is ripe, or how do I cut this, or what do I even do with this? So there's going to be a lot of that happening this summer and into the winter as well because we are a year-round market, rain, shine, snow, wind, a lot of snow,
Oh,
blizzards.
I,
We're
I
out there. So
I was actually thinking about putting the photo of the truck in the snow, and I was like, this would make a statement about your commitment to this. Like,
yeah, we are full time. We are out there in the big snowbanks. I think there's a picture of us with snow drifts like around the truck. But yeah, so that's a big piece for us is really trying to educate people about like lo especially local and in season items. We very rarely source things that aren't in season. I mean, obviously during the winter, we're not sourcing much up here in Buffalo that's local. Um, but expect we are sourcing in season items, and people are all the time asking us, well, why don't you have strawberries in the middle of December? We're like, because strawberries are not their best quality at this time. So it really is a huge education piece that we are trying to bring to the farm market going forward.
very cool. I look forward to see the impact of that and how that translates with your community. Carla, anything you want to add on the food as medicine, food literacy angle?
Really similar, I think. Obviously we share very aligned vision. We're feeding people and with dignity. So, um, farmer picks we call them, and recipe cards, and the same thing. We have a lot of vegetables here, and not a lot of local fruit. We have strawberries and raspberries and blueberries in season, but larger fruits we have to purchase from the other side of the state that's drier, and apples and cherries and all that. So a lot of education about what is celery root or what do I
Mm.
do with turnips or, things like that. A lot of collard greens, a lot of spinach, which is great because it's really nutritious, but people really don't know, especially in our demographic that haven't even cooked a lot. They've grown up or growing up on a lot of processed food. So just, oh, this is so good. If roast kale and can have a kale chip and they get excited. So we really work with training our operators to be familiar with everything on the truck. And, like when you go to a restaurant and you say, what's good
Hmm.
on the menu? We want everybody on the working the truck to be as excited of what's on it to share that story. And then also bringing nutritionists out on site, bringing people that do blood pressure checks and them saying, this is a really good choice for you. This low sodium stuff is a good choice for you,
Mm.
and so on. So it's really made, I believe, a good impact on people's, knowledge and nutrition and health.
I think this segues really well into the next question, which is like you were talking about who you pick and how you train them to operate the mobile market and how that, basically the person running the truck is the person providing the entire experience. And that's not only just, how the display look, how fast am I, in and out of this transaction, and also what do I get out of it? Like that's maybe subjective. Like, hey, what are you cooking tonight, or what are we doing? Like it's, oh, have you, this is like it's fresh in season this week. You should definitely try it, right? These little nudge and let's try something new. I think goes a long way. But so staffing. Let's talk about staffing. Big conversation with a lot of programs we talk to, finding someone who wants to run the program, figuring out what type of skill set they need, all that stuff. So maybe I'll throw that. Oh, so I'll go to you, Carla.
Okay. Yeah, staffing and was initially a big challenge. Again, really small organization when we started and limited volunteers, especially we were still in the middle of COVID. So honestly, at the organization at the time, I'm the CEO and executive director running operations, doing all the back admin and grant writing, and I was driving the truck with one other volunteer who's now on staff. Which then would pull us away. So hence we had only 4 stops a week when we first started. And then we slowly built our staff. We don't have any paid staff for the program. It's all volunteers. 95% of our staff is volunteers. And so just putting out calls, flyers, outreach, we're looking for people to drive the mobile market. We really focused on industry. So, we have a retired UPS driver, we have some retired school bus drivers, a couple of people that drove like the Mac tool sets. I don't know if you have
Mm.
them over there, but so we tried to find people who we knew could handle a large vehicle because we didn't want an accident. And then the personality, finding people who were really excited and not shy that could share. And it took about a year and a half. It's just been the last year or two that we have a really great dedicated core of volunteers that work the market. They own their shift. They all just do one route. And if they can't do it, they call another operator to switch for them. So I no longer, or my warehouse manager no longer has to drive or operate the truck. I miss doing it. It's so fun and rewarding. But I'm more useful back in the warehouse. So,
Doing CEO stuff,
right, boring stuff.
the boring stuff. That's really cool. I don't know that I've heard of many programs that's fully volunteer run. I think that's quite unique because usually it is a tedious job and packing and showing up and rain or shine. It is. So kudos to you for
Yeah,
pulling that
we
off.
have a photo also of snowmen outside of our truck. So we don't get as much snow as Buffalo. I've never been there, but I assume, but we get really harsh winter and really hot summers. So the comfort of our volunteers is always something I'm working on.
Employee fatigue, employee retention, team, building that culture so people feel like they're. I mean, when you work in nonprofit, usually you get the purpose, right?
Mhm.
That's usually
Right.
that's compelling, but there's more
Mhm.
to it, right? But Amber, what's your strategy when it comes to picking the right team to run your many markets? Like you have quite an operation.
Yeah, so I actually I'm pretty new to my current role that I have. I have been working with the farm market for the past 5 years since its inception, but I just recently last year took over running the entirety of it. So I've only hired two people for my team out of the six that are on it. But when we were looking at them, honestly, we have two people per truck. We have three drivers and three assistants, and they rotate between each other each day. So drivers will always go to the same site and assistants will always go to the same site, but they might not always be together. Um, the assistant that I've hired and the driver that I've hired have been absolutely fantastic. The driver that like we always look when we have driving experience, whether it's like an Amazon driver, UPS, even pulling from our other side of house, we do have a commissary on site. We do home delivered meals. So a lot of the drivers from over there, they just like us better and want to join our side. So we've stolen a couple of team members from over there, but it really, when it comes down to it, it's hiring people who have a lot of community service background, whether it's like community outreach or they've worked at a lot of the people that have, I'm actually hiring right now. So I'll be hiring my third employee for this team that I'm slowly building of my own. So like right now I'm looking at applications and seeing, do they have customer service experience? Do they have knowledge of produce? Something we always have said in the past that the knowledge of produce is something that can be taught. It doesn't necessarily need to be something you come in with. It's a nice to have. It's an always good to have, but having that community focused background, having that customer service background has been really huge for us when it comes to the assistants because those are the people who are doing the majority of the work when it comes to being forward facing. Our drivers drive us there. They do a really great job of getting us to our location. And they're even there selling produce too. They're not just sitting in the truck waiting for the assistant to be done at the site. They're out there slinging produce as well. But it really is the assistant who makes the largest amount of impact. So, like I said, we can teach produce, we can teach them, we can teach everything that we can. We'll use our JSY educators, our dietitians, and nutritionists that we have on staff, but having that community focus, drive, and integrity is what we really look for in our employees across the board here
And
at the food bank.
I've always felt that, if you're going to serve the people serving the community should feel or should come from the community and the, should be representing the community they serve, should be connecting with them, feeling like, we're part of the same community. We've always looked at doing mobile markets like a show. Like you're putting on a show and you need somebody who's good at doing shows. And so, you're entertaining a crowd. You need people to show up when you park, you're doing all that. So somebody who's good at the showman business. I don't know if you want to call it that way, but maybe somebody who worked in theater, not well, in the arts might be more, who's done a bit of a what do you call Toastmaster, maybe who's good at speaking, things like that might also be. And but we've also picked foodies. I mean, if you're a foodie, you're usually naturally attracted to learning all about these things. And we've also made the conscious effort to remember all the stories of the farmers we work with. So we knew how many miles they traveled to get to the truck. We knew if they sprayed, a selective spraying, so they're not organic certified, but they're close to things like that. People love to. That's how an apple gets so much better. It's when people worked behind it and it comes from your community. It just tastes better. So. All right. So let's talk about data and reporting. And we're about 9 minutes, about 9 minutes left before we jump into the QA. So we still have a bit of time. So let's talk about data and reporting. Started with you, Carla, last time. Amber, let's talk about what is the data that you're trying to capture? How do you show that to your funders and maybe in the future what you're anticipating and what you're looking forward to measure, let's say?
Yeah, so we capture a lot of data, and this is something that since I've come on board that we've been really trying to capture even more. In the past, we were just looking at what are our sales, what are we doing in each county, what is the average transaction, how many of those transactions are SNAP users, SNAP EBT users, and so on and so forth. So we were using very much generalized data that our POS system was giving us. Like in already pre-made reports. Since I've come on board, we've actually expanded it out to being able to track our like unit by unit items. We're going in and like going into we use Square right now. We're switching over to Toast in a couple of weeks. But right now we're going into Square and looking at each individual item, whose truck sold it, in which county, so that we can make better informed purchasing decisions as well. So like we're looking and saying pears, for example, pears are an 80 count case for us, and truck one is selling 10 per week or 10 per week. This truck is doing 20, and we're saying we're still buying 6 cases. Why are we buying 6 cases? So that has been really helpful to doing individual tracking. I wish that Square would do it for us and we didn't have to. So definitely do a lot of research into your POS systems that you're going to be using because they're not cheap, and you want to make sure if you're doing a paid model, you want to make sure that they have the reporting that you want. But overall, we've been looking at county transaction. What is the average transaction per county that we're in? So not even going as far as to look at not just the site, but seeing what the county is doing as a whole. That is huge for our funders because our funders are always asking us, especially if they live in that area, saying, what are you doing in Chautauqua County? What are you doing in Cattaraugus? Why aren't you here more often? And it also helps us make better informed decisions about the sites that we're at too. So if we're looking at a site and we're seeing that only 5 people are coming, it's never the same 5 people that are coming and they're only buying $2 worth of product, which is totally fine. But again, it's not, why
Are
are
you
we there?
are you tracking
Um,
the reoccurring orders or as
it's
well?
it is something that we are starting to do with our JSY educators. That is a big push that we've had.
Okay.
We started doing it 3 months ago, tracking our regulars. Overall, we also, our team is pretty good about having really good relationships with returning customers too. So they're always like, oh, whenever I go out on
Mm,
the truck with them, I go out on the truck about once a week with the team, pick and choose which team member to pull and go on the truck instead. Um, and they'll be like, yeah, that's a returning customer. Yeah, we've never seen this person in our life. And most of the time it is a returning customer. So we're using a lot of subjective, but now we're trying to get that data as well by doing weekly surveys with people and our JSY educators being there. They need it for their data tracking purposes as well. So it just kind of is a benefiting all of us operation.
very cool.
Something that we are starting to track, and this is coming from Feeding America as a requirement, is our poundage distributed. That is proving to be kind of difficult. We're kind of taking an easier way of doing it. Fortunately, our ERP system that we do all of our purchasing through shows us the poundage that we purchase. So we're just taking that and subtracting our waste and donation from it. Because
That's
technically it's
fair.
all distributed then. Yeah, like it's fair.
That's fair.
But that is something that a lot of donors are starting to ask for, not locally, but nationally, is poundage when we're submitting grants. What is your poundage that you've distributed, versus what are your sales? What are your customers? All that kind of stuff.
The the weight measurement as a criteria of success
Mhm.
is an interesting topic on its own.
Yeah, it's not my favorite because we sell a lot of pears, and pears are not that heavy. And we also sell a lot of our own. We have a container farm on site, and we sell a lot of our own lettuce and kale. But
Is it a freight farm?
we have 2 freight farms.
Two freight farms.
Um, but then we're not selling a ton of squash, and a butternut squash has a lot of weight to it. So
Yeah, I mean, if the measurement of success is that, I mean, you'll be driving around with watermelons and
yeah,
selling
exactly.
potatoes. Okay,
Exactly. Only heavy things on the truck.
exactly. Carla, um, what's your strategy around data in a gathering, and like how do you usually want to portray your impact with the mobile market?
So we collect data, we're required to collect it here in our state, and through our coalition, it determines our allocations that we each receive. So we track how many households we serve and how many individuals. And we track if they're duplicates or unduplicated. And we do have the weight because we have to weigh every pound in and out of the food bank. And so we are right next to our local waste management um, organization. We're 2 blocks away. So when the truck is empty, I weight it. And then when it's fully loaded, we weight it for about 3 months and got the average. And then based on what comes back, we just kind of gauge the poundage. And so we just divide that of each visit and give that to, put the pound, because each person who checks in has the poundage that they took. When they're in our food bank, they go across the scale when they check out. We don't have a scale there. We don't track any other demographics. We don't ask people for any ID, address, or anything. So a lot of grants do ask who you're serving, and culturally, but we don't ask for that. We just feel that that's another barrier. I
Hmm.
do some guesstimates just based on what we're seeing, when that's required. We do serve directly on our two tribal lands that we're located in. So we track that because there's obviously some tribal grants. But that's about it. We don't do anything electronically right now. It's all by hand because we are so rural. Even the Wi-Fi hotspots that we've tried don't work with our client data management platform. So
Oh.
everybody signs in, it says your name and how many in your household and who are they. If they're returned, they just put their name down and then they're entered back when the truck gets back to the warehouse. We have another volunteer who does all that data entry.
It's almost is so if I understand correctly, the 4G or 5G doesn't get to some of the locations where you serve, so you're
Right.
kind of because one of the trucks we built for in Louisiana, they have this giant satellite that they had us install on top of it, like a not like a boat satellite almost to be able to do just that when they go into these remote areas, be able to process payments and EBT and things like that. So,
We would
um,
love that. We're looking at that again, a thing, an expense to add to it because now that it's so busy, when it's serving 80 people at a stop, to enter all that, write it down, come back and enter it by hand compared to them just swiping their ID card, would be much easier. So we
Starlink.
have been looking at that, and now that Starlink is more available here. But like I said, we tried it on a few stops. It works in town, but it doesn't work other places. And we decided not to do it some and do it at others because people can shop wherever, and we didn't want to confuse people. So at this point, it's still manual, but we're definitely looking at something like that.
I have some ideas, so I'll follow up with you after that,
Perfect.
Carla. Yes. Okay. So we're right on time for our QA session. So let me go back to my screen here. One moment.
And I'll jump in here and throw some questions your way.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
Perfect. So, we got about 10 questions here, possibly more. If anyone still has any questions, now is the time to plug them in. And we are going to start with a couple of questions from an anonymous attendee. So, where does the source of produce come from? Our pantry has struggled greatly about not having a point of contact to gain produce. I think you guys covered that a bit in the procurement, but maybe we get a small answer from both you, Amber and Carla.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Um,
Amber,
oh,
yeah, please go ahead first.
yeah. So we work with a lot of smaller farms because really small farms can't give us the quantity that we usually need to service all three trucks. So we really work on getting what the farmers are willing to give us and paying them for what they're willing to charge us. We never ask them to give us a discount or anything, but it really comes down to just reaching out to that farmer and seeing what they have and what they can do. If they're willing to offer you a wholesale price or charge you at retail price, and just being a good steward to them. And again, just willing to make a more of a partnership versus like we're going to purchase from you and that's the end of it. Um, yeah, that's pretty much what I have is just like trying to build the relationship as much as possible. And I also know from growing up on a farm that reaching farmers is really hard to do. They are always out on the tractor. They are never home looking at their emails. So just being really diligent about getting to them because they will respond eventually.
I will put also in the chat here a company, a startup, well, startup. It's called Local Line, and they have basically mapped out a ton of local farmers, and you can do procurement through their website. Let me just get the chat here. I'm trying to do that, but while I do that, Carla, if you don't mind answering the question on your side.
Yeah, I think a lot of what Amber shared, I really work on a holistic approach and partnering with our local farms. As I mentioned earlier, when I went to farmers market, establishing really strong relationships. Our core community, city, town is 22,000 people. So, we're not as expansive. And then the rural area still comes to Arlington, that 900 square miles that we serve. So I feel we might be a little easier to connect, but I will say when I first started reaching out to farmers, they were very hesitant. They're like, I don't know what this is, and are you going to want something from me? They're struggling so much. They first were feeling like I wanted something for free. And I really approached it on the front end that we wanted to purchase. And then we just kept developing that relationship. And the other thing I think that's made a big difference is highlighting those farms to the community, not so much the community we serve. We do that, this is from Reconnecting Roots. This is from, Chubby Bunny or whatever. But to the community, the annual event that we have for our food bank is a farm to table gala. And 100% of the ingredients are procured from our local farms, local distilleries, local wineries, local musicians, and then an executive chef from one of our casinos does all the cooking. And so it's really highlighted, and then the community is seeing it. One of our best success stories, and we started getting more produce, is this casino and resort cooked this incredible food from many of these farmers, and they began purchasing from them, which then the farmers are planting more crops. So that overage of gleaning increased for us. So in addition, like she said, we purchase product, we'll purchase their seconds, or their disfigured
Mm.
products, and then we do a lot of gleaning. And the farm community has really exploded in our area. My goal was to focus on being self-sustaining. We have beautiful farmland, dairy land where we live, and we should be getting food from home for so many reasons, reducing the carbon footprint,
N-
employing more local people, and
Nutrition value
really
too,
worked.
right? Nutritional value of things when they're
Yeah,
harvested
so much
nearby.
better. They're getting it fresh, ripe, not picked when it's green and it ripes in a warehouse with chemical gas spraying on it. Even when it's organic, that'll happen. And so, yeah, it's been really great to see that whole growth and then the farms working together. And the first couple of farm to tables, we had a lot of farm product, but none of the farms came the last couple of years. Our farmers come and our guests and enjoy it and celebrate it, and they're getting standing ovations about their product. So
So,
I just think engagement and creating that sense of community. I had been in the community almost my whole life, and I didn't know actually any of these farms, which I was shocked. So it's been good all around.
Awesome.
so
And I actually just put in a link to our webinar page. We did a webinar back in January or February with Brad McNamara, which runs Morrissey Markets. And that whole webinar is about procurement. There's a lot of tips and tricks on procurement for mobile markets in that webinar. So if you want to dive a bit deeper into that, I would definitely check it out.
And
Next up,
just
oh,
went
go
real
ahead.
quick, Basil. I think the takeaway here from both of your answer is your food bank or your organization is much more than just a place to buy or to sell fruits and vegetables. It's a place for the local ag, the farmers, especially the smaller ones who need more visibility, need to be involved more, and then, bring them in to the community and like share their story. And all of a sudden, you become more than just a place to sell produce. You become an ally to the community. And I think it sounds like that's how you build that relationship. All right, Basil, sorry. Next
No,
question.
no worries. Okay, next up is a question for Amber. I wanted to understand how the fees or charges work. Are neighbors paying for food? Uh,
Yeah, so like our model, it is a paid model, so people are paying for the produce they're receiving, but they get to pick and choose what they want. Like it's open, we open up the doors and people put stuff in their bag, and then we check them out at the end.
awesome. Great. Next up, question from Mary. How do you make sure you have enough inventory for those last stops compared to the first stops of the day?
I still haven't figured it out. It's mostly towards the end of the week is figuring it out. I'm very good where I've done a really great job of picking it, like having enough stuff to last us up until like Thursday afternoon, because you never know. Our Thursday afternoon sites are always really popular. So I think procurement in general is such a win-lose game. Sometimes you'll
Mhm.
over order and you'll be like, we're gonna have a really amazing week. We're gonna sell out of everything, and then it's like nobody comes.
It rains
Uh,
all week or
or
something.
it rains all week. So I usually just have a general rule of thumb when it comes to purchasing is that for produce that or for veggies that are really popular, buying upwards of like 10 cases or enough to like make up like over 100 stock keeping units. And then for fruits, especially fruits that are really popular, like your berries, your oranges, like 10 cases and up. That is very much my model. And again, price does matter, but sometimes you're just like, I got to do what I got to do to serve the people.
You need the berries.
Yeah, people love their berries.
Absolutely. Need the berries.
And awesome. Thank you, Amber. Next question is for Carla from Aaron. What grant did you just reference where you had to use 50% of the funds on produce, dairy, slash meat? Carla.
It was a state agriculture grant. We Feed Washington. And they were kind of part of the resiliency grant system. Unfortunately, June 30th is the end of this grant period. It was a 2-year grant. And the other one was Farm to Food Pantry. It was also through the Washington State Department of Agriculture. And it also ends June 30th, and it has been a 2-year grant. And we had understood from cuts that that was going to end, but I did just get an opportunity to reapply. So I think there will be a little bit of funding for that. So we have really marketed to the community due to a lot of our federal freezes and budget cuts for, SNAP benefits, EBT, and all hunger relief agencies has been critically slashed. We really are now counting on our community. So we've just started a lot of campaigns for that. I have a lot of concern from farmers because now what's happening to them. I have a couple more emails this week because we're just coming into our big growing season saying, are you going to be able to do anything? Because I know a lot of programs have been cut. But as to providing enough, we try again, we have hardy stuff that carries over. So I can order a lot, and if it's too much, it goes into the next week. But really predicting, we usually always have the same number of people at each stop. Some of them are 45, some are 80. But even if some of the stuff is gone, there's something else to replace it. So it's really important to me, the first to the last customer, get the same quality and quantity. It might not be the exact same item, but quality and quantity are really important.
Mm.
Awesome. Thank you, Carla. We have a couple of more questions from Aaron here. Some of these questions came before you guys talked about certain things they're asking about here. So if you want to just kind of, we still have around 15 questions to get through. So let's keep
Oh, we got 4 minutes, so 30 seconds each. Let's go.
I think we can go over a little bit,
Okay.
but yeah, let's try to run through these. So, how do you do program evaluation? Who is responsible for implementing changes based on this feedback? That's for you, Amber.
Yeah, so we have a rubric that we use when we're determining a site. And our sites apply, and then we go through the rubric and we determine if they fit into our vision and our mission, and if it's a full-on need in the community. So we do that bi-year or bi-yearly.
Bye.
We do it twice a year. That's it. So we will look at them again after their application and they've been approved and they've been doing it for 6 months with us. We'll go back and look at we'll go back and see like, okay, well, you said you're going to be reaching this point, but you didn't, or like just doing quick evaluations with the host site. I will say about community out, like about the community. we do put a lot of that on the host site to be the ones that are telling us about the success. Obviously, our assistant and our driver are there and they're seeing it for themselves, but a lot of times we're across all four counties. So like nobody on my team lives in Portville, so we're really relying on the community in Portville to tell the host site, wow, we really love this program. Wow, we like want to have it continue to be here. So our host sites do a lot of our program evaluation for us.
Amber, did I understand correctly? You let the host site apply to be a host site, so it
Yeah,
comes from them.
so yep, it comes from them. A lot of times when we are doing, this year was slightly different because we were trying to get our third truck out on the road as quick as possible. So we were reaching out to places and asking them. A lot of them were already community partners in some type of way. Some of them weren't. But once they're on fully with us, we're stopping there weekly or biweekly. We do ask them to give us feedback and provide us with information, and then pair that up with the information that they've given us, pair that up with the data that we have from our POS system reports.
Makes sense.
Awesome. Okay, next question again from Aaron. How do you get volunteers to actually contribute to the program slash participate in fundraisers, etc.? I'll throw this one to Carla, but I will say I am in Buffalo as well, and I volunteer sometimes with FeedMore, and they have a fantastic volunteer portal. So kudos to that.
Providing a volunteer experience is probably one of the number one aspect of a food bank, to create these experiences, something that's rewarding and hopefully gets you more money at the end. But sorry, Carla, go ahead.
Yeah, I think having a really good volunteer coordinator, which I just engaged with about a year ago, that's been a game changer. And then the other thing is, again, connecting with the community. So we added a site in our downtown location, and and we have like an old town downtown strip. And I went to the businesses and said, would you sponsor the truck, each week in a different business? So for instance, we have a John L. Scott office, and they do the first Wednesday or second Wednesday of the month when it's at Legion Park. And then they have been doing, food drives at the local grocery store, collecting food and cash. And they're just so excited. And they have team members and they've signed up for the whole year. So that's the newest route we added a couple of months ago. And so that's the latest experience. But we have a lot of businesses that will do food drives, fund drives, and then not regularly volunteer. John L. Scott does, but some will be guest visitors on the truck, just because people want to donate and actually see where it's going is
So,
is what I find, and
so
saying, hey, do you want to come and spend one day on the market? And that goes over really well. We've had a lot of our legislature come and do days on the truck, our local mayors,
no way.
city
That's so
council
cool.
people. So
That
they really, it's a win-win for them. I think it is a good photo op, but we're in a blue state, and so all our legislator is really supportive of food insecurity and stuff, and so they're really big advocates for us, helping us get grants and things like that. So I just think engaging people, even if you have your core volunteers, bringing other people in to just experience it for a day, so then they become another advocate for you.
position your mobile market program as another volunteering opportunity and then basically you could probably build a pipeline of volunteer that are excited to come and try it out. But I mean, the funder, I think, is one of the first time I hear to invite them to also participate in the truck. And I think that's fantastic. I think
Mhm.
that's how there's nothing that will compare to go work on the truck and see people's reaction and
Yeah.
serve people, and you'll see exactly what this is all about. It's hard to, oh, it's a mobile market,
Yeah.
it's a farm
And they
stand.
even hear about it and think it's great, but when they work it, so again, John L. Scott's very new. I think so they've done it 3 times maybe, because it's only once a month. And one of their agents, I just got an email from him, got married or is getting married, and instead of gifts, they're requesting donations for the food bank. And
That's
Oh,
so
amazing.
yeah. And so it's like they're so moved, and the owner or whatever of that particular office, she's amazing. They said, "Oh, we've gotten the same girl twice and it was her birthday, so we all sang." And it's really cool to see somebody be affected as a customer and as the volunteer slash donor. And, I mean, we've never had anything like that happen. I thought, what a cool idea. We might have to really market that they did that. So,
I think
yeah.
so. I think you need to scale that. That sounds like a great experience. Okay. Oh, Basil, one last
Yeah.
question, maybe?
Okay.
Couple more, or maybe?
Sure. Yeah. We can do a few more here. I think I can run through some of these are quick answer. So how many trucks do you run? I believe FeedMore does 3. Carla, you have just the one, right?
Correct.
Okay. So
Correct.
we're done with that question. See, quick. This is for Carla. Do you give TEFAP bags of food at your mobile market? I'm not
We
sure.
don't get,
Don't have
we have TFAP food
happy.
available,
Oh,
but it's self-shop.
okay. Gotcha.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you. Next up, for those who are juggling a sales model and a food distribution model, how do you keep them separate? And
Oh, that's me. Sorry. We operate a mobile pantry. We have actually kind of moved away from doing that. It was something we did before COVID, and then COVID hit, obviously, and that was our main model of distribution was going out and doing these mobile pantries. We really try to We're dwindling it down because there was an agency of ours that got a grant opportunity to do their own type of mobile, and they're kind of taking it over. So again, it's just knowing where those mobiles are and making sure that we're not in those spaces or we're on different days or far enough apart from each other. A lot of times when it comes to those mobile pantries, they're only once a month. They're not happening on a consistent basis, or they are happening on a consistent basis, but they're not happening in the frequency that people really need them. So just being conscious of where those distributions are happening, and are we in that space at that time? And really, if we are, trying to make sure that we are making it very clear that we're not giving food away, that it is for sale. And we do always, if that is happening, I mean, for example, we've been at our pantries before during pantry operation hours, and we push people towards the pantry before they even come to us. So just trying to be respectful of the spaces that we're in.
Amazing. All right. What inventory management system do you use? If you guys want to give some recos here, Amber and Carla. Go with you, Amber, first.
Yeah, I personally don't recommend mine, but we use NetSuite for all of our ERP for our entire warehouse. So the farm market is pretty much required to also track all of our inventory through NetSuite, but I personally would not recommend it.
Carla?
Um, that's been a struggle for us too. We actually don't have a system to track our inventory. I mean, we do it manually. It's really difficult, because what goes on our truck is gleaned food, grocery rescue, TFAP food,
Right.
purchased food. So, our inventory, we have certain things we have to keep track of our TFAP food when we get it, when we release it. But I do a monthly inventory check of the whole warehouse. The mobile market isn't separate from our market at the food bank. All the food is can go anywhere, can go to any program. And so, yeah, we do a manual inventory every month because I report that obviously in our financials. And I mean, it takes a little bit of time, but not that much time. The warehouse itself is very, very organized. So, it takes 20 minutes to go down and walk through everything and do your manual inventory.
Yes, Excel sheets can be underrated.
Excel sheets.
Um, awesome. What POS systems do you both use, and can you take Snap with Toast? I think we'll just answer the second part of that. Can you take
Yeah.
Snap with Toast?
Yes, that is why we are switching to it. In the past, we were using Square and TotalPay and our Double Up Food Bucks app as well. And so we've been exploring different options over the past couple of months, and we came across Toast. They're actually really phenomenal. I don't know if this was just because of the time of year that we were doing it, but they're giving all of their hardware to us for free because we're a nonprofit. So we're getting 5 handheld devices and 5 printers from them, and we just have to pay um, for the device track or whatever it is, the software fee for each device. So it's gonna be way more affordable for us, and we'll be able to do all of our transactions on on one location versus doing it on multiple locations.
Great. A couple more here. So for a nonprofit organization, I think this is more for you, Carla, because you have the free program. How do you set limits on how much each client can take or receive?
So we have little, laminated cards that have numbers on them that are guidelines. Again, it's knowing your customers. They can take, at least one of everything. Some things might take two or three or whatever. But if somebody is like they're diabetic and they only want fresh produce and nothing can, maybe a thing of oatmeal or something, then they take a little more because we do a permanent schedule, but it rotates every other week. So people, wherever that market is, it's only there every other week. So they're shopping, ideally for 2 weeks. If somebody says, I'm making tuna casserole and we had tuna on the truck and they need 4 cans, we're going to let them take 4 cans,
Hmm. Hmm.
and you just have to, I've never had anybody abuse that. And the biggest problem with that is your volunteers thinking, well, I think that person took more than they should. It's like, you know what? We don't need to waste energy worrying about
Do,
that.
The
do, do,
reasonable person model.
do you find, Carla, when you're in the truck and you're presenting the food and people are coming to you, it's a face-to-face type of interaction that they're less likely to go and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm taking this whole case." I mean, like
Yeah. Because
just
we
to,
have the shopping market at our brick and mortar and the same thing. I mean, there's a breakfast section, there's, tomato products or whatever. And we will get other customers tattling on them that this person took and that person consistently takes. And again, that's few and far between. But then I just have a one-on-one conversation with that person when they come through and check out. If I'm not there, then we wait for the next time somebody says we're having an issue. And I usually, it goes well. You just share, we are working to feed a lot of people. And in order to have enough for everybody, we really would like you to follow those guidelines. So,
Awesome. Thank you, Carla. This one, I'll let you answer this one, Fred. So this might be a question for Fred. Do any mobile markets break even, or is it only sustainable through grants? And before you answer there, Fred, we do have a model that we promote often. It's the Robin Hood model, we like to call it. You can kind of find more details on it. I pasted the link in the chat here. I don't know if anyone's aware or any operators out there, we do have a community learning platform, which has a lot of these learning module and a mobile market university. So the Robinhood model there's more details about this exact model, but Fred, over to you.
so so mobile market or farm stand is not a new thing. They're a difficult thing. They're difficult. There's the nature of it being parking somewhere outside and hoping people show up to buy what you're selling. So you have farmers who are running mobile farmers market and they are profitable because they're selling their own products. So they have the advantage of growing what they sell. And so obviously they make more money that way. Amber and Carla are stuck buying the food that they're selling. And also part of their values as an organization is to buy local if they can, support their local ag. And you see the return comes in probably tenfolds in donations and different support, right? Um, so if you want to run a program that breaks even or makes money, it's doable. It's a lot of marketing. It's finding good deals on the products you're going to sell and making sure you're setting up somewhere where there's a lot of foot traffic. So that's really the three main ingredients to make a mobile market successful. And then a ton of marketing, really. So people need to show up. So sometimes that engagement might take a while to establish. If you think about a typical brick and mortar store that opens up, they'll do a whole month celebratory kind of anniversary, launch anniversary, and they're going to have balloons and everything for their month, the launch month. Imagine doing that for all the market stops you have. So this is kind of where it gets complicated a bit, but yeah.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. Where do you store your inventory in between markets? If we can maybe move quick on these last few questions.
I think we'll
Amber?
take that last one, Basil, and
Okay, sure.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then anyone who did not get their question answered, I can reach out and we can post some of those answers as well. There will be a recording for this entire webinar if you want to share with any colleagues or friends, and it will be up on our site within the next 24 to 48 hours. But Since this is the last question, go for it. Amber, where do you store your inventory in between markets?
Yeah, so if it's between site to site in a day, it's just going back into the coolers or staying on the racks while we transport it to the next stop. And then during the day, we do, or during the like overnight, we have outdoor coolers that are specifically for our farm market truck inventory at our warehouse. So because we are a food bank, we are very fortunate that there's already a building here that is set up to be a warehouse. That is a warehouse, not even set up, that is a full-on warehouse. So we're just tacking on, we're taking up a little bit extra space, and we're very fortunate in the next year we're going to be moving locations. We're in the process of building a whole new building, and we'll have not only cooler space, but we'll also have dry storage space as well. So we'll be able to store our produce in terms of what their storage needs are even better.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Carla?
Yeah, we have a distribution warehouse. We're blessed with a lot of space as well. And we have an exterior cooler and freezer so people can just pull up to the truck, unload that stuff. And most of the non-perishable stuff is pretty depleted, but it just rolls right in the warehouse. So pretty quick load and unload.
Awesome.
Amazing.
All right, so I'll wrap this up. Thank you, everyone, for participating in this webinar. Amber, Carla, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for sharing your story. I hope this will bring some good vibe your way, maybe some, some more donations, maybe some more support, hopefully. But yeah, keep on trucking. And like I like to say lately, is good food, good mood. Let's keep rolling. So,
Thank you for letting us share our stories.
my
Yeah,
pleasure.
thank you.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.